This is the rhythm of change. This is the sound of redemption. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. Igniting the fire within you. Exalting the melody of freedom. These are the things that will bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Down, down, down.
Let me tell you, it's in the air. Joy is in the air. Love is in the air. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Don't sleep on it, brother. You might get left, sister. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Justice. No need to be counted, cause I am down. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down for the end of racism, for the end of bigotry, cause I am down. For the end of misogyny, that's right. For all the isms out there, just down, down, down. Let's bring it down. Rise up, people. No more foolishness, and let's bring it way down.
Riding the river of change into the cries of contrition. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. We are the children of Eden, dancing and celebrating freedom. We are the ones that must bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. We've got to bring it down. Down. Stand up and shout. Stand up and shout. Rise together.
Accountability starts now. The Eric Dawson Radio Show.
Yeah. Rise up. Stand up, shouting loud.
If you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice. And if you're worried about being marginalized and stereotyped, please don't even show up.
How do we use this moment to push our government to provide what we need, whether it's cash or unemployment insurance?
Got a bunch of audio files going. Good morning, Vincent Squire. How are you today?
I'm fine. Good morning. How many cups of coffee today?
I had a half a cup of coffee. I'm dragging today, Vincent. Yesterday,
No.
after my 4 cups, because I finished the one that I had yesterday during the show. I had a crash, man. I went and met with some clients, did some business, and sat in the backyard, fell asleep. And if you could look very closely, you'll see that I got a little sunburn on my nose. But listen, I'm up and I'm here. And I tell you, man, every day, getting up, sometimes it's a little more difficult than you guys can imagine. But I'm here, and we're going to try to give our opinion and our insight and thoughts about all the things that are going on in the world and in your local neighborhoods too. So there are a couple things that, I'm going to run down the list, right? So you guys saw in the intro, it was the HR6666, right? The proposed legislation that's currently in the House. Or did they vote on it in the House yet? Has it reached? It's going to reach Donald Trump's desk, and he's vowed to strike it down.
It hits the Senate today.
It hits the Senate today. So TRACE, which is testing, reaching, and contacting everyone. TRACE, HR666. It's a big deal. If you guys go Google it, if you go to YouTube especially, you can be entertained, because you'll see all the conspiracy theorists posting all these videos about, oh my God, they're taking away your rights. This is only the first step. Oh, your constitutional rights are gone forever.
Oh, God.
Right? That's what you see, though. Oh my God.
But
then you see the other ones, Vincent. Oh my God, the name of it, 6666. Well, firstly, 666 was supposed to be the mark of the devil, right? So they can't count. They can't count. Oh God. So they're 1 6 off. Wait a minute. Either they're 1 6 off if you're just counting the numbers. But if you count 6666, that's 6,666 versus 666, which means that they're 6,000 off. Right? So they're 1 digit off, or they're 6,000 off. Either way, God damn it, they're off. Vincent, don't get me. You never know where I'm going with this.
Oh, God. Yeah.
They're off. They're off their rockers. I'm telling you. Come on. I wish, you know what? Because I want a conspiracy theorist to call in today. I want it. I'm itching for it. Call in. Let's have, I'm calling them out today, Vincent. Call in, 908-481-5499. It's ridiculous.
There you go. Challenge.
Call in. And I'm tired. I'm tired today. So I got half my brain tied behind my back. I'm tired. Come on, call in. Let's do it. So listen, here's the deal. They're not taking away your liberties. The conspiracy theorists lead you to believe that. So let's break down HR 666. It is a bill. Now, the Democrats are being disingenuous because they say it's bipartisan, right? I think you got 1 Republican who signed on to it. So that makes it bipartisan. Right? So we got to have an honest conversation, right? I think only 1 Republican signed on to it. And I'm not sure exactly why. But you have 1 Republican, you have many Democrats who signed on to this thing. Essentially, what they want to do is provide funding, right, to allow there to be more data gathered around who has or who had the coronavirus, so that we can safely open up. Everybody's screaming and hollering about wanting to open up the economy. But if you listen to science says, well, we don't have enough information to do it safely. And so now Congress says, well, let's put forth this bill that will provide funding so that we can have people in communities primarily communities that are underserved, right?
$1 trillion.
Right, so that we can get information. And what I say it was TRACE. So testing, reaching, and contacting everyone.
Contacting. Yes.
Right? So they wanna test, they wanna reach, and they wanna contact everyone so they have accurate information about who has had or who currently has the coronavirus so that we know what's going on. Because right now we don't. And so now the conspiracy theorists will lead you to believe that the contact tracing police will come into your house and they'll shove this rather long swab up your nose, right? That kind of disappears and like it's crazy, man. Have you seen the size of that thing, Vincent?
Yeah. Yes, I have.
Huge. It's huge. I don't ever want to get tested if I don't have to. If I do, I will. But it like goes up your nose and it looks like it almost would pierce your brain, right? But it goes down into Vincent, I'm telling you, that thing is it's scary, but and very uncomfortable. I was told. I haven't had it done. But anyway, they put this thing down and they swab all the way down, right, to check it out. Now, the conspiracy theorists would lead you to believe that the contact tracing police come into your house, that they somehow hogtie you and your family, right? And then with masks and gloves and shields on and hazmat suits on, they press you firmly against the floor and they shove this thing up your nose against your own will, right? And then they put electrodes on your testicles or your nipples. And then they force you to tell them everybody that you've been around. That's what these conspiracy theorists want to lead you to believe. But that's not the case at all, right? What happens is you can say no to the testing. So they provide it if you want it. But you could say no to the testing. They can then ask you if you go get tested, hey, you're positive. Who have you been around? You can say you don't want to tell them. Did you hear what I just said? Those are your rights. You could say that. And there's nothing they can do. They will not pull the electrodes out and connect them to your testicles. Trust me. They won't do that.
Yeah.
They won't. And then beyond that, the quarantining, they're not going to send police to your house to quarantine you either.
That's right.
Understand what I'm saying to you. They're not going to make you quarantine. They're not going to make you get a test. And they're not going to make you, by way of torture, give up the names of the people you've been around. So, go back to those conspiracy theorists and tell them, like I said, they're off. They're off their rockers. But we do understand, don't we, that having the data is important, that knowing how many people have contracted it, who might have it, so that we can stay away from them. I mean, hey, Vincent, I got a headache. You got it. My grandmother used to say to me, like, her headache became so severe when I would get on her nerves. She would say to me, "You make my ass hurt." So the pain transcended beyond the headache. I'm telling you, I want to call these conspiracy theorists. Please tell them, because I am on my game today. 908-481-5499. Have them call.
You know they're not going to call. Eric.
Vincent, I can't anymore. They are dangerous. They are dangerous to society.
They are.
Listen, they're breathing air that some good soul could be breathing. They're just taking up space that some good soul could be living in. They're eating food that some good soul could be eating. Just dig a ditch and jump in it. Hey, do us all a favor. Yes, take all of your masks off. Cough on each other. Breathe on each other. Shove your fingers up your nose and wipe it all over everybody. Do all of that. And then don't take a test. Don't get a vaccine.
There you go. There you go. Wow. Who peed in your Cheerios this morning?
I'm just done. I'm done. Do you guys get it? I am completely done. So we can get, I believe, and the number of things that the Trace bill will do. Well, this is the other thing I want to say before I get on to HR6666. Add the other six.
Yes.
Wait, let me back up. For those of you who are gullible, right, who have gone down a rabbit hole with these conspiracy theories, do you understand how the bills are named? Right? So it's not like somebody pulled 6666, right? 6666 out of the air. It is the order in which they are introduced. So the next bill that's introduced will be 6667. And then 6668, and then 6669. Count with me now. Just done. I'm done. I'm here. Like my grandmother said, you making my ass hurt, not my head. Just done.
Oh, man, look. I've been dealing with these fools on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram. I mean, they get a conspiracy and they run crazy with it. And none could be more crazier than Dr. Buddha.
Oh, God. And what is he saying?
Oh, everybody's giving up their rights and liberties to actually do it. I mean, this is the same doctor who's in, I think he's an obstetrician. But he's born in England. He's the same doctor that was the poster child of the you don't need vaccinations. Your children don't need vaccinations. You don't need any shots or anything like that. So he's saying that no.
Wait a minute. We may have a conspiracy theorist calling in. Hold on. Let's see.
Ready? Let's get ready.
Hello? Caller? Go.
Hey, good morning, guys. Can y'all hear me?
I got you. What's going on?
Yes, good morning. Good morning. I'm just calling the message because I was listening to you talk about the 6666 thing, and I was just like, well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but as a slightly superstitious person, now you really got me messed up when you say that, well, I already knew, but that the number of a bill is based on, it comes up in order, and now we're just at order of number 6666. So now you want to tell all the superstitious people that the bill that's about tracing and all the stuff about possibly taking care of their rights is the one bill that just happens to come up on the number of all sixes.
No, but listen. But the
suspicious people,
right? But
that just made it even worse, man. You might never get nobody to want that.
But even
it's not 3 sixes the mark of a beast; it's 4 sixes. But it's all the sixes. It's just too many sixes in it. That's what they're going to say. They're like, look, I don't want no sixes in that bill. I'm just messing with y'all, but that's what the superstitious people gonna be like. Everybody got too many sixes in it for me now. Just that it came on random, right? Yeah. And the other reason was for calling. Can I just defend my industry for like 2 seconds here?
Wait a minute. Did you see that a barber? It was in the Washington Post, and I hate sharing the Washington Post, guys, because me sharing it. They require a subscription. So if you want to read the whole article, then you got to go and get a subscription. And so if I share it, it's kind of like I'm endorsing the Washington Post and asking you to get a subscription. I don't want you to spend your money on them unless there's some sort of revenue share. And then, yeah, we can do that. But in the Washington Post, they talked about a barber who defied.
Right. Right, and that's what I was going to say. I read that article,
Uh-huh.
and I read a couple of articles about hair salons and hairstylists that all defied whatever orders and now have coronavirus or even died from coronavirus, right? And it's been getting at me because I've seen this a lot. Being a barber, right? It's always getting shared in the barber groups on social media and stuff. And so I'm like, how come every time a barber comes up with coronavirus, they make an article about it? They don't make an article about all the McDonald's workers. They don't make an article about all the supermarket. How many people at the shop, right, tested positive for it? And they don't talk about that. And I'm just saying, for me in my industry, I'm not going to say, while we are exposed to it, we're allowed to go back to work because of that, right? And when I know I had training for precautions to keep any pathogen from spreading from person to person, right? And that just bothers me. I just had to call up and say something about it. It's not you, Eric. I know you just was posting, information that you see, and I see that all the time. But I just noticed it's like, as a barber, I can actually say I stayed in contact with most of my customers since this all started. And to this day, I only have I think 2 of my customers were tested positive, right? And they know how they got it or who they were in contact with, and most of them got it from their job. Right? In all honesty, they got it from someone else that had it on their job that they were in close proximity to is what the determination is, right? But not from a barbershop, right? Because barbershops have been closed for 2 months. So all these people, all these new cases, it's not coming from barbershops. It's not coming from hair salons, it's coming from nail salons. So I'm just saying to the world and any of the Eric Dawson listeners, don't be scared to come back to your barber. Don't be scared to come back to your hairstylist. Because if they're taking proper precaution, and I'm in my process of doing what I was telling you last week, Eric. There are precautions to take that everybody should know what your barber and your stylist and so forth is doing.
Yeah, and hopefully your certificate.
Yeah, that's just I'm even be honest with you, that certificate, that was just a standard thing, right? But it came out, so it was like, okay, go ahead and do it, and for people to see. But there's a lot that's like the not even, I guess, the icing on the cake. That's the finish layer. There's some other things that you just do. And understanding it, most people, for instance, just with and this is not even in the industry, it's just using products properly. People don't use disinfecting products properly, so they don't disinfect it. Most people, when they use a disinfectant, they will wipe a surface down and then wipe it right off. But that's not how you use a disinfectant.
Right.
That's not how Lysol works. You have to soak it and let it sit. But people don't do that, right? So most people, when they wipe something off, they wipe it until it's dry. Right? Mm. That disinfects nothing. Right. So
with that, so when we talk about opening up, right? Because this is what this is all about. Opening up. We got to get open. And look, I understand that people are hurting. I understand that this government can't just continue to give money to people that people have to go to work, right? They are the cogs of the engine, right? They are the commodity to the wealth of all of this. And so they have to get back to work. Got it. But getting back to work could kill us. And that's something that we have to understand. And it is through information, even the information that you just gave about how to properly clean. A lot of people don't know, right? So people go out and they're told, oh, go get some disinfectant. Okay. Oh, well, and then Donald Trump tells them drink the disinfectant. But people are told to do things, but they're not properly instructed. And then they don't read the instructions on how to do it. And then on top of that, you have conspiracy theorists who are telling them they don't have to do it at all. So it is really hard to trust. And then I saw a video that I posted yesterday. I talked to Vincent about it before we got on air, where in Japan they did a mock test of how germs could travel from an infected person, and they did this. They put some substance on one of the person's hands.
Blue light, right? They used the blue light, the black light, right?
Right, and then they used the UV light, and then they were able to see how quickly.
Ultraviolet.
So what I'll even say to you, Farrakhan, is this: you know, in terms of how you cut a person's hair, or you know, or whatever the precautions you take there, but there just has to be clear understandings of the precautions that people are going to take everywhere, right? I'll give you an example, and this isn't to you, but let's say, you know, you mandate that everybody kept gloves on and masks on and all of that, right? But with the gloves and the masks on, somebody had, you know, for whatever reason, sneezed inside of their mask, and then their eyes watered up, and then they took their hand and they wiped their hand with their glove, right? And now they have that droplet from their eye there on their hand. What are they going to do with that? And nobody's washing them to be able to instruct them on now what to do. And so now if that person touches something, right, now it's on that, right? And then it begins. And then what if someone has to go and use the bathroom at a facility? Nobody's watching them when they go into the bathroom, right? So all of these different things, and then they come out of the bathroom, and if they didn't take proper precautions while they were in there, so what are they gonna? They're gonna take the glove off, wash their hands. I mean, there are enough people who don't wash their hands. I mean, God, did you read the study of people who don't wash their hands in the bathroom? So now think about somebody who has a glove on, or gloves on. They go into the bathroom. They're gonna take their gloves off to go to the bathroom, and then are they gonna put new pair of gloves on? They're gonna put the same gloves on. What's gonna? So there's just so many different things that, no matter what the owner does, we still have to rely on people to do the right thing. And we see that they don't want to, some of them. They're defiant, a lot of them, too many of them. And so that all makes it very, very scary. And so for me, in some instances, unless I can live under an ultraviolet light through which I would be able to see every spot of virus, it's a scary prospect without, for me, a vaccine. You know, and so
unfortunately, without a vaccine, it is ridiculously scary, right? It's a wake-up call for us at this point. But I think what we have to do is that I don't know how you enforce standards and practices in everybody's general life. You know, how do you make sure that people, when they go into a public bathroom or use a public bathroom, I mean, we've all done it as much as we hate to do it, right? How do you make sure that they I guess wash their hands before and after and so forth? I think the trick or the main thing is, again, I think information. I think if you teach and educate people properly, it will, of course it won't eradicate it, but it will at least maybe make people, I think people will become more conscious of some of the poor hygiene habits that they have. And the problem with the conspiracy side of it is, I don't want to say it's like left wing or nut, but, you know, for instance, best way I could put it, I was really bothered when I used to see the videos of doctors who were saying you don't need to use masks, they're no good, and you shouldn't, and gloves, because, you know, people don't use them right. So if people don't use something right, teach them to use it properly.
Oh, wait a minute.
Right?
Can
But
I
you
say
don't
this?
let's don't tell a person
Let's stay on
to not wear a mask.
Let's stay on the mask thing for a second. There was a post that I saw yesterday, and I try not to go into some of these, but sometimes I just can't help myself. Anyway, there was a person who posted a meme that said something like, wearing masks, you're losing 60% of oxygen, and it just had this checklist of things, and I'd say that 90% of the things that were on that checklist were wrong, which is dead wrong. And literally, what I did was everything I went in, I just Googled it, right? And then after Googling it, like I said before, you know, find 3 or 4 sources, right? Not just one.
Sure.
So,
Hey, like when you said what you just said, I don't know if you saw my post about a week or so ago where I had to, like, I'm trying to disprove this oxygen and fresh air thing with the mask. Now, I don't know what's happening with these runners and people working out that are passing out and lungs are exploding and all these things. I don't know what their other conditions might be that cause that, but I did the simple fresh air test, right? And I ate my food. And after I ate my food, I ate something that was sort of gassy. And then I put my mask on, and eventually
You had a little flatulence?
Passed gas, right? And I passed gas. And guess what? I could smell that horrible smell through my mask. And that means I can smell bad gas, right? If I can smell bad air, that means I'm getting fresh air. Right? Simple and plain, right? If 2 seconds after I passed gas with a mask on,
right,
I could smell it,
but that's
then guess what?
Right.
Fresh air came in my mask.
So that's common sense, right? But if you wanted to rely on something more than just your common sense. So I found a meme. Somebody tagged me in it again. So this is what they said. Mask wearing, 1, reduces oxygen up to 60%. That's not true. 2, increases the risk of CO2 poisoning. That's not true. Causes increased face touching. Now, well, I'll get into that one. And I asked for the source. There's no source for any of this, right? Virus and bacteria saturate the outside. Next one. Touching masks and surfaces spread germs. The next one, contaminants sit within mask fiber, get re-inhaled. I mean, it just goes on and on. And then for me, the person literally saw that somewhere. And this is what I talk about, right? We have to become seekers of truth, not seekers of our own truth. And what I mean by that is this: you take a position, and then you just go and try to find information that supports the position you took. That's not seeking truth. That's seeking your truth, right? And to validate your truth. Seeking truth means that you go wherever you can to get information. And if the information you get causes you to re-examine your original position, then you're willing to do that for the sake of truth. But see, this person here, and I'm not going to mention the person's name, but they saw this meme and they say, see, I'm going to show people how smart I am. And they just showed they're a dumbass by posting it, because none of it is true. And like I said, all I did was Google each of those things, right? Just Google them, because I didn't want to speak for myself. I wanted to give them information. And then in Googling, I found 3 sources for all this stuff, and then I started posting the articles in there. And now that person, and so this is why they're dumbass, and this is why they're dangerous, because now they won't even take the meme down. So now they have information, right? They now know they're misinforming people, but they're so goddamn stuck on being right on their position that they're not going to take it down and possibly risk lives. That's why I said at the beginning of this thing, take all your masks off, take your gloves off, touch each other's faces, sneeze on each other, and then go in the backyard and die. Because you are a danger to everybody else. Everybody else. It's sickening. I mean, we are dealing with now close to 90,000 deaths. 90,000 deaths. I just had to watch on video yesterday my second cousin, his funeral. Right? Because that's how they do them, right? They usher 5 people in at a time for the viewing, and then everything else is online. I'm just tired. 7 of my former classmates perished. I mean, it's not, so I don't even, that term, respect somebody's hustle. I have no respect when your hustle is causing lives to be lost.
Amen.
No respect for that. So anyway, so that meme is a horrible meme. If you see it, please go in and say some nasty stuff to the person who posted it.
Tell them to die.
Yeah,
please.
Just do.
Spare us all your BS. Spare all the people who need their lives and want to live. You know, like last week, the person who kept going back and forth about the mask. So I finally got tired of it. I said, listen, go into the hospital where they're treating coronavirus patients and don't wear a mask. And if you're alive in 2 weeks, your theory was right.
And now, wait a minute. And now here's something else, right? Because this is where people try to find their own truth instead of the truth. So there was a video, apparently, where Dr. Fauci said that, first he talks about wearing masks, right? And then there was a video where he said, apparently, something about doesn't make sense for people to be walking around with masks. But then they took it out of context. See, because what it means is this. If I go out of my house right now and walk down the street, there's nobody out there.
Right.
I don't have to have a mask on. So for me to walk down the street with nobody on the street with a mask on, I don't need to do that. Right? Do you understand? See, but when you try to find...
like this.
I'm sorry?
Like, would you rather have a contaminated mask on, or would you rather have a contaminated nostril?
No.
Simple and plain. Either it's going to be on the mask, or it's going to be on your nostrils. Would you, hey, darling, how are you? Which one would you rather have it? Would you rather have your mask be contaminated with the coronavirus, or would you rather have your nostrils and your sinus? Which one do you think is going to kill you? That's how I see it. And people, when I hear people say don't wear a mask, that's what aggravates me. I'm wearing a mask right now. That's why I might sound a little funny. But, because I had to go outside for something. But it aggravates me when I hear a person say, don't wear masks, don't wear gloves, because it gets on the mask and it gets on the gloves, and then you do what? Take the mask off. But guess what? What it didn't get on is my lungs. What it doesn't get on is my skin. So I can spread it to the rest of my skin again. I can always take the mask off and clean the mask or clean the gloves or just remove them. But I cannot remove my lungs unless I'm dead.
And now here's the other piece of this. There's some new information that came out that now says that if somebody sneezed or if they talked too loud, you know how sometimes when you enunciate words, like especially those words that pop like P, right? P, right? Those particles come out of your mouth. They said that they could stay in air for 8 minutes now.
Yep.
So now let's figure this out for a second. So now, where I just said to you, well, why would I walk down the street with a mask if nobody was there? But now I don't know who might have been out there 5 minutes before I walked out. And so now with this new information, maybe somebody was out there without a mask and was popping P words, right? And spittle was coming out all over the place. And so now I walk out there before the 8 minutes expires, the time frame that they say it could be in the air, and I decide, because I don't see anybody out there, I'm going to walk out there with a mask. So now I got to rethink that. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this thing is evolving. Science is learning about it. We're learning what they're learning. Then in the middle of that, we're dealing with these idiotic conspiracy theorists. Better be safe than sorry. Better to be safe than sorry. Now, speaking of sorry, Donald Trump went to a factory yesterday, right? And you saw him. He had no mask on. Everybody else had masks and gloves on.
Right.
This is what I'll say about that. Shame on all those people. I would not have let him in. See, understand this. And I want you to really understand what was going on there. All of those people had masks on. What the mask, when you have it on, what it primarily does is protect other people from your particles.
Right.
Right? That's what that mask does. So if you understand what I'm saying, your mask protect people from your particles. So everybody who had masks on, they were concerned about protecting other people from their particles. Donald Trump said, screw you. Right? So he didn't have his mask on. So he wasn't protecting anybody. He wasn't trying to protect anybody because of his beliefs. So he believed that all of those people should be at risk because of him. And then they cared less about themselves and their family members and their friends with whom they would be around after they left Donald Trump, that they stayed in a room with him. And so now also understand this. They say that the virus could enter into your various orifices. So not just your mouth and your nostrils, but your eyes. That's why they tell you don't touch your eyes. And so none of them had face shields on. So Donald Trump, while he was popping those P words, and the spittle was going in the air. And now that we have this information, they could live in the air for up to 8 minutes. And these people walking around with no face shields. Once you understand, look at what's happening.
So he basically infected them, and they took it home to their parents because Donald Trump's food server came back positive. His steward came back positive, and this man is always in close contact with Donald Trump. So Donald Trump could be a carrier, which means that all of those people now have infected themselves and took it home to their families, and look at who they're taking it to. And this is the mask manufacturers. Crazy. Just crazy. Eric,
Yep.
I don't get it. I don't get it where our world leader is, who is the one who's supposed to lead by example, is showing us such a poor example.
Yeah.
I don't get it. He puts everybody's life in danger because he wants to be Donald Trump.
Well, no. He's
the Almighty.
He's putting people's lives in danger because he wants to win a re-election.
Oh yeah.
That's why he's putting people's lives in danger.
Well, that ain't gonna happen.
You know what? And we talked about this. I'm looking at. I saw yesterday. What was it? Lawrence O'Donnell. I saw Stacey Abrams and Joe Biden on there.
Joe Biden. Yeah.
Stacey Abrams did her best to look vice presidential.
Yes, she did.
She did her best. And not only did she do her best to look vice presidential, but the makeup people and the lighting people and everybody else did a good job too. As well as Lawrence O'Donnell with the questions that he was pitching to her. Allowed her to smack him over the fence. But Joe Biden, on the other hand, every time that man is on the screen, he does himself a disservice. He looks old. He looks tired. He looks like he really doesn't want to do this. And he looks forgetful. Just a ton of, negatives. And they show. How do you have, in an environment where we now have 36 million people who file for unemployment, nearly 90,000 people dead, clear evidence that Donald Trump botched the beginning of this thing, the unemployment rate nearing 15%, and it's still a race, still a contest. See, so there are polls that say Donald Trump are up. More polls that I've seen say Donald Trump is up, not nationally, but in the battleground states, than
That's
Joe
fake
Biden.
news. Those are fake polls.
Well,
Those are fake polls. Eric, they have to be fake polls. There's no way on God's green earth the man who is the poster child of the greatest catastrophe in American history is up in the polls. Come on. Vincent, you got to realize, one, we've seen a lot of different polls, and for sure, Donald Trump is up. I believe he's up, especially when you consider part of the reason he's up so high is going to be because of who his potential competition is. When you look at a guy like Joe Biden, right, they're not going for him no matter what. You understand? So if people aren't buying the other side, that's even more reason to go with what you got. And have this debate every time there's an election coming up. I personally believe people vote against their interests. They do not vote what they should, white, black, green, purple. They do it. So, no, but Donald Trump is up, and he's probably up like they say he is, as far as his numbers go. I don't think that could probably even be disputed. But I did want to say, Eric, I don't think I forgot how you just said it, but you were like, how Donald Trump dropped the ball. I wouldn't say that Donald Trump dropped the ball. This is a pen. This is because 90,000 people. The reason 90,000 people are dead in the United States of America is because this is the most openly traveled country in the world.
This is I'm gonna.
Right?
Well, firstly, I think I got Mike Spruill on the line. Is that you, Mike?
Yeah.
I hear his hazards blinking.
I'm sorry. I just turned them on.
Okay.
What's up, Mike?
What's going on? I disagree with Farrakhan.
Fake polls that are going on right now.
This ain't real. I'm gonna talk to your point about Donald Trump and his speech yesterday. I was in Pennsylvania, and I don't know if you ever came up 78 and 22, the split right there where 78 go off to the left, and 22 go off. They had all of that shut down from there to the Lehigh Valley International Airport or whatever it is over there. But that's where he was coming in at. That's at least 10 miles on 22. But I tell you, people were lined up
with posters, with flags.
Flags. I mean, for at least 10 miles cheering, and the man was nowhere in sight. I wanted to save the footage, but from my dad's camera, but I got to where I went and made 2 or 3 moves and got behind it and forgot to save the footage. But these people were at least for 10 miles enthusiastic. To your point, Eric, about Biden and the Democratic Party, and there's no enthusiasm there, we are in trouble. To your point that Biden, the way he's looking, and the Democratic Party is moving, and these people were lined up for 10 miles. What I tell you, for 10 miles on both sides of the highway with cameras, Trump flags, every kind of flag you can name.
Yeah.
We're in trouble.
Listen, I'm telling you, you can pretend he doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
But that's not gonna make him disappear. Right. And Mike, I heard about that. I have family up that way, and they say, Eric, it is bananas. It's bananas. And I agree with
so
this.
Big Mike, how you disagreeing with me? I'm telling you, I believe that. No. You said that. Hold on. Let me tell you where I disagree with you at. From the beginning, Donald Trump and his administration, from the federal level, when the word was coming out of China, instead of sending the experts in, making the proper scientific moves, he was going on his own agenda of making the Chinese look bad. And when the things finally got here, that's when he started making moves. Oh, gotta shut down this, gotta shut down that.
But so let's understand this. Let's understand this. Donald Trump was never about saving lives. He was always about saving the economy. And so when they were having these briefings with him about a pandemic, right, Donald Trump understood, if this thing is going this way, what it's going to do is affect the very thing that I'm running on, which is a strong economy. And so as a cheerleader, right, he came out defying what science and data was saying, and he said, hey, we got the greatest economy, this thing is going to be over, it's going to have not a lot of deaths, we're going to move on with life, because he wanted people to just continue to go to work. He didn't want fear to settle in. He didn't want the reality of this thing to settle in, which ultimately would have led to people not going to work, right? And that's where he is. And so once it got there, Donald Trump's entire agenda was to get people back to work, not to get people healthy, which is why we don't have the testing, right? Because Donald Trump didn't want to do the testing, because doing the testing reveals what? The thing that he didn't want you to know was here.
That's right.
You understand? And
he
so that's why
and
there's
he
no
openly
testing.
said
Why do
that
you think Donald
testing
Trump's not
would
wearing a
make him
mask?
look bad.
Donald Trump's not wearing a mask because he is the brand that says this isn't that serious, people. You
Right.
see? And so for him to put a mask on would indicate something contrary to the brand that he's trying to project, which is, hey,
Yeah,
it's safe to go outside.
You need you to ignore your environment.
That's absolutely right.
You need you to do that.
No. Who are you going to believe, Donald Trump or your lying eye? That's what it is.
I'm going to get back out here on the big road.
All right,
Y'all have a
brother.
good one.
All right. And that's what the whole thing is about. He just wants everybody to put their life at risk so he can get the economy back together, so he can say that he built the greatest economy in the world's history. Okay, so we got how many million people unemployed? And how many people dead?
36 million, almost 37 million unemployed.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you. You built that.
Well,
You can't tell me
wait.
this is
So
up to the polls.
wait.
Who are taking these polls from? People in
No.
Pennsylvania
Wait a
with the
minute.
I Love Trump sign?
No. Now you went too far over. I'm not going to say that Donald Trump built the 37 million people who are unemployed. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to go back and say, which is what Stacey Abrams said in the audio clip I played the other day. You know, it's all not on Donald Trump. It is also on your local governments, right, for failing to act and failing to do things that they could do too. So they play a part in it. Donald Trump doesn't wear all 37 million people who file for unemployment. He doesn't wear the entire 14.7% unemployment rate. He doesn't wear the entire nearly 90,000 deaths. He doesn't wear all of that. You got to put some of that on Cuomo. You got to put some of that.
But Donald Trump is the poster child of it.
No. But I don't want to get back into this whole discussion, right? Because it's got to be a more holistic view of how this thing fell apart. So we can have the conversation about where it started unraveling, but then where there should have been stop gaps within state government and local government that could
And we had that conversation.
That could have offset some of the failures. They didn't know what to do either. So all of them are to blame. So there's in Tap Into Newark, it says door-to-door COVID-19 testing begins at North Ward Senior Building. So at St. James, it says St. James Health has launched door-to-door COVID-19 testing in the senior building in Newark, the first program of its kind in the city. St. James Health, a federally qualified health center, began testing in the Valentine House in the city's North Ward. I don't know the particulars of it. I'm going to share the post. I'm not going to read the entire article. I don't know whether there is a cost to testing or whether it's free for you to go get tested. But here's a place for you to go get tested. But we have to do that. We have to test. I am now. Here's the other piece that I wanted to say about HR6666. If you believe in some way that this is an overreach or could be an overreach by the government, my air quotes now, by the government to violate your civil liberties, right? And to trample on your constitutional rights, then you control the government. So, if we believe, I'm going to take you through like just a little reasoning and see if this makes sense. If we agree that we can't stay home forever, that we got to take risks, and we take risks now anyway, right? You take risks when you go to the supermarket, right? When you run out of provisions in your pantry or in your refrigerator or in your cabinet, you got to get more milk. You're taking a risk, taking a calculated risk. When you got to get more butter, when you got to go pick your kid up, when you got to go get gasoline in your car, you're taking risks, calculated risks. For all of the people who go play the pickets at the liquor store, you're taking a risk. So don't tell me you're not taking risks. taking calculated risks. So these risks are going to have to get greater at some point, right? Going back to work. So as we do them, we want to be able to collect all of this data so that we can be calculating in the risks that we take. But make no mistake, we're taking risks. But I am for, but if you believe that as they put this Trace Act or HR6666 bill together, that there is going to be overreach or trampling on your civil liberties, then look at who your Congress people are. Do they have a backbone to fight against the encroaching on your civil liberties? Look at who your U.S. senator is, or senators are. Do they have the backbone to fight against those? Do they have the backbone to pass legislation that is beneficial to you without surreptitiously going behind your back to run game on you in order to shaft you? See, you can do that, right? You can evaluate who these elected officials are. If you believe that they're all scoundrels and that they all will misuse this, then the question I'm asking, Vincent, is then why don't we kick them all out of office in November? Right? But we're going to keep them in office. We're not going to go and do the thing that we can do, which is go vote. What we will do is we will whine and complain about a bill that's being passed that can be beneficial if you had the right people in government to monitor it and protect your civil liberties. But you won't take that step and be accountable for doing that. You'd rather complain about the bill. Come on, people. What are we doing? But we need this in order to move forward.
What we're doing in street terms is called being a pussy. That's it. You're saying everything behind their back, but when it actually comes time to make it happen, when the rubber meets the road, you back off. You back down. You say nothing. You do nothing. You support no candidates who want to move this agenda forward. You support no candidates who want to help you have a better quality of life. You support no candidates who want to bring in better medical centers and shopping and supermarkets. You support no candidates who want to increase the education in the school system and give your child a fighting chance. Because when children go out for jobs now, they're no longer competing locally. They're competing globally. But you don't support any candidates with that. No. You just want to talk. That's called being a pussy. And I'm really tired of him getting on his phone, getting on the line, saying all this crazy stuff, all the conspiracy theories. It's all about this. It's all about that. Shut up. Because when it's time to fight, you aren't there. When it's time to vote, you aren't there. When it's time to be accountable, you aren't there. But all of a sudden, you're really brave on Instagram, Facebook, and every social media. But when it's time for you to stand up, you're not there. You're a pussy. Okay, let the call start. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. It's I'm listening to this saying, and this concerns me. And I'm the first one, right? I played the video of Sam Jackson saying stay home. But I also was asking the question whether or not the cure was going to be more harmful than the disease. I kept asking that. Say, stay home, but do this. And the reason I was asking the questions, I'm saying, yeah, we need to stay home, but these lawmakers have to have some sort of a plan. And they didn't. And we talked about this even yesterday in Newark, right? This idea of $1,000 to go towards some things that doesn't need to go toward, that the mayor wants to give out. There's no plan. The plan can't just be stay home, stay paralyzed. There has to be something beyond that, right? There has to be an understanding that people have bills to pay. You can't just say the government is going to continue, because all of that money comes from taxpayer dollars, right? Taxes that people pay because they're earning a living, right? And they're paying taxes. So if you're not working, where's it coming from? And so there has to be a time, and that's all I was asking for in the beginning. I said, for all of the people who are saying stay home, yep, follow the science and all that kind of stuff. But give some projections on what the economy is going to look like, what all these other things are going to look like. But for the people who were literally just saying stay home, they weren't talking about the realities of a failing economy as a result. And they were doing that intentionally. They were doing it because they wanted to lay the entire economy at the foot of Donald Trump. So they didn't want to, in the states where they were saying, where the governors were saying, oh, we're going to, broadly pass a law that you have to shelter in place and all businesses have to be closed. Okay, got it. What does that mean? I understand what it means in terms of mitigating spread and flattening the curve and all of that stuff. I got that. But Murphy wasn't standing there with his top economic guy explaining what it meant on this end. Do you understand what I'm saying? The only guy that had to deal with that, and I'm not a Trump supporter, but I'm saying they made it seem like the only person that's got to deal with that is Donald Trump. But no, each of these governors should have been called to answer. But you didn't hear it. You would have Murphy on for 2.5 hours. You had Cuomo on for 5 hours. It seemed like 5 hours. God damn. Yeah, he'd just be on television just talking about all kind of shit. But he was never talking about the small businesses and the economy and how it was going to suffer. Right? But all of those things should have been taken into consideration so people had a full understanding of what was going on and what the plan was. But there was no plan on the back end of this. And the plan shouldn't have just been, oh, we're going to go to the federal government. We're going to have our hand out and ask for money.
Oh, no. It's nothing like that. Everybody knows what the plan is, and they know what actually needs to happen so that we can open up the economy, so that people can get back to work, so that they can get back to, living at a standard of living that they've grown so accustomed to. But we know what the problem is. To open the economy, you're going to need testing. You're going to need...
But here's what I'm saying again, Vincent. So the very people... And it's just nuts, right? So the very people who are out there with no masks, with the AR-47s or whatever they are, the guns. I shot one, I told you. I shot one of those big guns once.
AR-15s.
AR-15? Yeah, that's what I shot. I shot an AR-15. It was wonderful. Doing this contact tracing, if you want the businesses open, you want to go back to work, but you don't want to concede anything. You just want to be reckless, right? You just want everybody, like I say, you want to be like Mike, right? You want to be like Donald Trump. You just want to walk in front of people and feel like you could not put a mask on. Like there was a guy, I've since blocked him, but I posted this on my page about a week ago. I said I had gone into a store and there was the owner of the store came up to me. He had his mask down to his chin, and he asked if he could help me. And I said, "Yeah, back up, put your mask on," right? And so when I told that story on my Facebook page, somebody came on my page and said, "Oh, if that were me, I would have talked in your face." So I'm looking, going, so why? Why? I don't care if you walk in the wilderness without your mask on. Like I said, go breathe on somebody else. Go breathe back on yourself. But for you now to say you want to encroach on my space, right? Where I'm trying to keep my social distance, and you say if you saw me, you would violate my space and breathe on me. Well, see, there lies the problem, right?
Now he wants to test your resolve to see if you're not going to pick up something and knock him upside his head.
But I think the mentality goes beyond just testing my resolve. The mentality, because those people in Michigan, they weren't trying to test my resolve, right? What they were saying is that, we just have utter disregard for people who don't think like us. Not that you have a right to feel the way you feel, and so we'll respect your space and we'll go over here and do our thing. But no, we're gonna do our thing and we're gonna violate your space, and God damn it, you're gonna deal with it.
We're gonna disrespect you, and you deal with it.
That is the mentality, And so my thing is this: I get that the government needs to open, or the America needs to open up. People need to get back to work, but we have to find smart ways of doing it, and it's knowledge-based, it's following science, and it's being practical. And speaking of practical, Vincent, I sent you the article. Maybe I didn't. Even McDonald's, right? They're saying McDonald's, when they open up, it's going to be different, right? They're going to have these artwork on the floors that promote social distancing, that there will be, the people servicing you will have masks on. They're going to change a whole lot of what it is that they're doing in places like that to promote not only social distancing, but I think also from a marketing standpoint, the sense of safety, right? Because with you being told that social distancing flattens the curve and reduces the spread and all these things, it's been pounded into your head now. So if you walk into a place and you see it's crowded, for the person who's not brain dead, right? You look and say, that's not a safe place for me, and you're going to walk out. And so for those places to thrive, they're going to have to accommodate, right? Give the visual appearance of safety so that you walk into the establishment.
Well, again, the problem that we're having with opening the economy is that they don't want to do it right. They want to follow the narrative of Donald Trump or be like the Don. And all that's going to do is lead people to their death and make this virus continue to blow up. So, at some point in time in society, America, we have to, look at what's important. Are we going to follow Trump's narrative and telling us that we need to get back to work, we need money, we need this, we need that, when, Congress just passed a $1 trillion bill just to check on your contact and track them down. So they can't propose another bill that would keep you employed or put some money in your pocket or at least give you enough to eat and survive while we go through this virus? Can Congress not unleash all of those testers or test kits that they're stockpiling at the federal government right now and let them go to all these cities, states, so that they can do the testing and do the distance tracing? Can they not do that with all the money that they have at their resources? Yes, they can. But no, they won't, because they're following the narrative of Donald Trump. And as long as we keep listening to what he says, it's going to lead us further down this hole. Before you know it, it'll be maybe 5 people alive left to vote.
See, because here becomes a thing, right? If you realize, I don't know how many people now they say have contracted COVID-19, but if you were to realize right now that, let's say, they did enough testing to be able to determine, I think they've done like 3% of the people have been tested. So 300 million Americans, and they've tested 3 million, right? Or something like that, or whatever the 3% number is. But imagine if you realize that 1 out of every 3 people is possibly infected. What would that do? What would that do to the economy if you knew that? What would that do to you in terms of changing your habits about going out? And this is why they don't want to do testing. Caller, go.
Hey guys, I just gotta say, I don't want to say we're doing a lot of like Donald Trump bashing, but it seems like this is not a Donald Trump blame situation.
Oh, I agree.
And I'm not a Donald Trump fan. Right? But no, Vincent, because like you keep saying, they're following the Donald Trump narrative. That is not true. Okay? Because 90% of the countries in the world are trying to reopen or are reopening. So it's not a Donald Trump narrative. Okay.
Well, let me ask you this question.
Are getting back into their regular daily life.
Okay,
And America. The problem is, let me finish it, then you can say everything you're going to say. The problem is, again, one, they have no cure, no proper therapy. That's throughout the world, right? And the world is still reopening. So we got to stop saying, see, if we keep blaming it on Donald Trump, we don't get anywhere, right? Because the problem is greater than Donald Trump. Another issue, like you talk about the testing, is it's been said that they won't have the proper amount of tests being produced until around September, October. Are you proposing that we close this country until September, October, when we can be producing approximately 50 million tests per month? Right? People say, well, Donald Trump should have closed the country earlier. If he had to close the country, the people don't want it now. They wouldn't have, we would be going through an even worse battle if he had done it a month earlier. So we can't say it like that. Let's get off of Donald Trump. And let's just get to what needs to be done. Right?
Okay.
And
what I'm saying to you,
that narrative, it won't happen.
Okay. What I'm saying to you is this. Now, we agree that there is no vaccine for this, right?
Right. Okay.
It's not a public one.
We agree that people want to get back to work, right?
Absolutely.
So, now, if, as Eric said, there's a possibility of 1 out of 3 people have the virus, how do you know?
Are you asking, or are you just making a statement?
I'm asking you, how do you know?
Well, from the current testing is why they're saying it's approximately, from whatever results they're getting from that. Like if they randomly test or have tested 1,000 people, they're saying 300 or so come back positive. So that's why they're going to say 1 out of 3.
Okay, so we know that people are positive from either testing or dying, correct?
Absolutely.
So, now, there is a laboratory that produces 12,000 tests that you get back in 15 minutes, positive or negative. And it is stockpiled at the FEMA office. Why is that when we need to get the test out for 300 million people to open the economy?
Exactly why? Because I haven't heard their explanation. But I'm not going to give you an explanation. What have they given, since you're saying it as though you know? What is the government's explanation for not releasing those tests?
We're getting it ready for the second wave.
Okay. And I can't be mad at that then. I cannot be mad at that. Because
we're still in the first wave.
But so you don't ignore what you know is coming because you're in a situation. Now you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to answer that question in a second. But let's take this caller. Caller, go.
Hey, Donald Trump. We're not nobody. The sound people perceive what you're saying as an attack, but we're not attacking Donald Trump when we speak of his shortcomings. And he didn't have the power to shut the government down. The governors took the position like, no, we have to, in the interest of health, we have to shut down all unessential businesses. And in the interest of the health and well-being of the people, then that's the position they did. Now, that had a direct effect on the national economy, and that was Donald Trump's concern. And right. From the federal level, he never, from a federal level, came across the country with a sweeping plan to reinforce what the governors were doing. All right, instead of us giving out the $1,200 to everybody on the scale of that most of us didn't get the money, but instead of giving, they took that money and put it out there instead of putting the money in the interest of testing everybody. That's what they did on the federal level. They should have took that money here. The people need assistance. I'm not saying that some form or fashion of assisting them. We should have did that from the federal level, but it should have been like a more. Hold on. It should have. Hold on. This should have been a more balanced approach of testing tracking and tracing. Now they let the horse out of the barn, and what they call interstate seeding happened, and the virus went all across the country. So from a federal level, Donald Trump's responsibility was to come up with a all states plan, and each individual government, instead of him going, you remember now, he went back and forth with governor. And so instead of him doing that, I wanted to working for a second. Yeah, go ahead. You started your statement by saying it was the governors who had the control of shutting everything down, not the federal government. Right. And you're right. And it's also them that argued that they have the right to open up. Right, and that it will not be on the directives of Donald Trump. So correct. Okay. So then again, keep Donald Trump's name out of it. No. You can't. No, we can't. Hold on. Let me rebut that. Now you can't keep his name out. Remember, he had those pep rallies in the White House on a daily basis. He was encouraging people to go against their governors, so people showed up as state governors with AR-15.
Right. So wait a minute. Wait. So what was happening?
Following his directive, exactly.
Right.
So go ahead, I'm listening.
All right. So what was happening? Understand what was happening, right? See, Donald Trump didn't want to. So the governors wanted to put the responsibility on Donald Trump, saying that there should be this national plan. Donald Trump understood, and his advisors understood, that if Donald Trump took that upon himself, right, he can't really control it in the end, because the governors will make the decisions and the mayors will make decisions within their different cities. And so it would have gotten out of control for him. So what he kept saying was, no, that's all their responsibilities. See, I want you to just think about this for a second, guys.
No, you're right.
No, but
Everybody keeps saying Donald Trump.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to explain to Vincent.
I didn't say Donald Trump. I said from the federal level.
Right. So
from the federal level.
So what I'm saying is this, Vincent, is so if Donald Trump had done everything that everybody thinks he should have done, the governors would have held the keys. They would have had him by the cojones. And the mayors would have had him by the cojones. And if they had still driven their states into the gutter, right, in terms of policies that negatively affected the economy, then it would have been out there. Well, Donald Trump had this federal plan, right? But now the governor's got to own it. All of them have to own it. And in fact, if you remember, Cuomo came out and said that he said the president doesn't tell me what to do. As the governor, I make the decision, and he's 100% right. And so now the most that the federal government should be doing, and they do it, is they say, here, we're going to issue guidelines.
Yes.
Here are guidelines. Now, you take them or not, but here's what we suggest. Now, each governor, their ass is hanging in the wind. They're exposed. They got to make a decision. And they can't blame that guy at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Then the mayors, like you see Mayor Baraka, you see Mayor Voss, and you see Mayor Ted Green, they do their Facebook Lives and they talk about what they're going to institute in their cities. Right?
Yeah, but let me, it was only, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong. I think what Cuomo was disagreeing with was after they shut stuff down, Donald Trump tried to come in and override them to open it back up.
Right.
So then he told them, like, look, no, we can't right now. So what I think hold on. Majority of the governors, majority of the state are Republican. Majority of them. Matter of fact, they only need one or two more to have a constitutional convention, but that's another story for another day. But if the Republican governors wouldn't have responded well, and their states became hot spots, then the Republican Party would have been more on them. But from the governor's standpoint, all of these governors always talk about, especially the Republicans, talk about states' rights. No, you make on the on the state level can never supersede the law on the federal level. So it comes down like that, but you can't come in there and tell the states what to do on the federal level.
Now check this out, right? From what you just said, talking about Cuomo. Cuomo came on TV, said Donald Trump can't tell me when to open my state up. He doesn't have that right. And then 2 days later, you know what Donald Cuomo started talking about? Opening his state up.
Yeah, they started showing up with guns.
Right. You don't want Donald Trump to look right, so you create a narrative in which he looks wrong. That's what's happening. Our governors, our mayors, they're playing politics.
They're playing politics. And we got to call, and you're right, you know, and I'm not a Donald Trump supporter, but we got to call it what it is. They're playing politics, and he's right. So when Donald Trump said it, just like Farrakhan said, well, I can't have Donald Trump, you know, according to Cuomo, his actions, he couldn't have Donald Trump be correct, right? So he had to be defiant, right? And then he had to come out and say it himself to show that he was the boss. You understand what I'm saying? So on one hand, and so is this needle that they're trying to thread of holding him accountable, but not giving him the power to make the decision. Right?
And before I hang up, because I got to go, and I just want to say this.
I got to go through.
Take a guy like Cuomo, right? Take a guy like Cuomo, who is now in the process of reopening his state as businesses in all parts are getting open. And none of them meet the requirement of Donald Trump's initiative of how to reopen.
New York State has been a 14-day decline.
But they haven't had a 14-day decline in all of the categories in which the CDC and the federal government have said they need to. And they're opening up anyway. But nobody's talking about that. CNN don't talk about that.
Well, they gotta, Cuomo has to stay in touch with the people upstate, as they call it, in New York. And those people are getting restless, and they want to get out there. But there's still going to be a seeding of the virus. I suggest everybody, a great documentary on YouTube about the 1918 pandemic. It was the same exact
that
thing.
second wave is what did it, right? The second and third wave.
It's the same exact thing. It's history repeating itself.
But look, but here's the deal, and I believe this. It is the economy, stupid, right? But the game, the political game that's being played is who to blame the economy on. And so I believe that part of why this is still such a horse race in the middle of all of this is because there are people who are looking saying, no, you know what, my governor or my mayor, my congressman or woman, my U.S. senator, they're not doing the right thing either, right? And they're making they're taking a broader look at this thing, and they're not just zeroing in on Donald Trump. I think that they're assigning a certain amount of responsibility to him, right? But I believe, and again, this is not me supporting him. This is what I'm saying about searching for the truth and not my truth. I believe the truth is that they're saying, look, he's not perfect. Yep, he screwed up, right? Yep, he should have done that. But now we need to move forward. And then in moving forward, the cooperation that he should be getting from these other places, he's not getting because they're playing politics. That's what I think the narrative is out there.
And Donald Trump is not following the same guidelines because the damn virus is all over the damn White House, and he's been in close proximity to all of these people. So he's traveling around the country like he's exempt. So hey, we get what we get.
Well, look, you know what though? He's double. Look, what I got to give him. Maybe saying credit isn't the right word, but I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna give him credit for this, right? He's a dude who's saying I'm doubling and tripling down.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So because what we know is this. We know on the Democrat side, they're all hoping he gets the coronavirus. Right? Because
be calmer, though. I I'm gonna hang up and listen. Have a good one.
Thank you. But they're hoping he gets it, because if he gets it, that'll be another nail in his coffin, right? They'll be able to say, see, he had it. Now we don't know how many people he infected. You know, he was reckless. He was this, he was that, didn't have a mask on. That will be, and they'll be able to drive that narrative from now to November. The Democrats will. Donald Trump is, to his credit, he's saying, you know what? I'm going to bet my entire presidency on this. I ain't wearing no mask. I'm like, okay. So that's the tension that you have going on right now. And there was an article I read. They said he's trusting his gut. Now again, I'm not a Donald Trump supporter, but I'm looking at it, and I'm saying that for those people who were supporting him, those people, Vincent, who are his core base, the ones who people said Donald Trump can shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and they'd still vote for him. Those people are cheering the fact that this man is willing to double and triple down on what he believes in. And that is the enthusiasm that drove 10 miles of people going up 78 where it splits 22 to stand out there yesterday with signs for him. And I'm saying on the Democratic side, what do we have going up against that? Oh, okay. So Vincent will get back and answer me. He just texted me. He had to take another phone call. But the question is, what do we have to go up against that? And so I agreed early on where the campaign was going to be a matter of enthusiasm, being enthusiastic about something. And I've worked campaigns long enough. I've been an insider long enough to know that you can't run a campaign just against something. You got to run a campaign for something. And so when they were coming out saying that they were creating this narrative, this campaign that was all about getting rid of Donald Trump, you can't sustain a message like that for this duration and keep people excited about it. You can't. It just gets old, which is why I told you I banned CNN and MSNBC from my house and just recently have them back on. But oh my God, last night I was watching Joy Reid, and oh God, she's nauseating. And then you watch the rest of them and you realize, and I'm not saying that on Fox News, they're not the same in terms of trumping for Trump. On MSNBC and CNN, you know, they're trumping against Trump and they're pushing for Biden, right? So that's what we have. But on the Republican side, they're enthusiastic. And the guy you see on the Democrat side, the guy I saw last night was Stacey Abrams, which is why they're touting this national poll about Biden being ahead of Donald Trump. But on MSNBC and CNN, Steve Kornacki won't talk about the polls in the battle states where Donald Trump is leading him. And then to ask the real critical question again, how is it even, ask Joe Scarborough, ask Mika Brzezinski, ask Chris Hayes, ask Lawrence O'Donnell, ask Rachel Maddow. How is it even a close race? Even a close race. If Donald Trump is responsible for 37 million people filing for unemployment, how is it even a close race? If Donald Trump is solely responsible for 14.7% unemployment rate, how is it a close race? If you're laying on Donald Trump's shoulders and back the death of nearly 90,000 Americans, what does that say about Joe Biden if it's such a close race after you put all of that on Donald Trump? You got to answer that question. But anyway, HR 6666. It is not the devil. It is something that is necessary in order for us to get all of the information to be able to send our babies back to school, for us to safely go back to, you know, some semblance of normalcy. Until then, I'm fearful that far too many people won't. Even if they do open up the stores, open up the restaurants, open up the gymnasiums, open up all of those things. If in the back of my head, I think that that person over there might have COVID-19, I ain't going. Are you back, Vincent? Oh, I thought he was back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Oh, okay. So, I had asked you a question, and I got your text that you had to take a call. I can't remember. I can't remember. I'm old. I'm getting old, Vincent. I don't remember the question. But people, I was talking about enthusiasm, in this election, and the fact that they have to figure out how to make this more enthusiastic. I see. Wait. So, I would love for Munira to call, and she said that she is. Did she say that she's OSHA certified? I think that's what she may have said earlier up in the thread.
Then that just means she had asbestos training, or she's a truck driver. She's OSHA certified for hazmat.
Right, and so because she's talking with some level of she says she's an OSHA instructor. She said, "Are any of you OSHA instructors?" She says, "I'm OSHA certified and was taught the benefits and dangers of wearing masks if they're not worn properly." And I'm not saying that there aren't dangers and that there aren't benefits to wearing them, but I'll read what she says in here for you guys who may not be on Facebook, maybe looking through YouTube. It says the bottom line, it says wearing a mask probably won't hurt as long as you wear it properly. Clean it often, wash your hands, continue to not touch your face, and physically distance yourself from other people. There's just not a strong body of evidence that wearing one, especially one you make yourself, will protect you from getting sick. If you want to wear a mask, go for it. I don't know who this is. Somebody says, but just be mindful of what the possible benefits are and what the possible limitations are, and be realistic. So I thank you for that, Munira. Call or go.
Good morning, Munira. How are you? Great ride.
Hey, sis. How are you? I see you're traveling all. So let me ask you this, because you're in your truck and you're traveling all over the country, right? What is the sentiment that you see? Like Mike said, going up toward Pennsylvania, he saw droves, 10 miles worth of people lined up, with Trump banners and signs and posters and such. What did you see? Any of that kind of stuff when you're driving across the country?
Well, what I see is basically people, thanking the truckers, who are out on the front line, but I haven't seen any kind of, that appears to sound like somebody was doing some kind of protest. Was there a protest going on?
No. Donald Trump was going to a facility, and the people knew that he was, going to Pennsylvania, and they decided. I don't think that it was grassroots. I'm sure it was organized.
He was going to the EOM manufacturer.
Right, but I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was planned and orchestrated by his campaign to do that. I don't think that that was a grassroots effort, but they did it, and it was in lieu of him not being able to hold his massive rallies that he holds. But I just want to know whether or not you've been able to gauge in traveling across the country any sentiment at all, one way or the other, for for this election in terms of like highway signs or billboards or other kinds of things that you might see or hear.
That's the first I heard of it, so
okay.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, so you put a post in here regarding masks, and the understanding, and no, I'm not OSHA certified. The understanding that I had gotten from Dr. Fauci and I think it was the Surgeon General even, right? As well as some other doctors who put videos up on Facebook, was that, having a covering is better than having no covering. right?
Yeah.
What my grandfather used to say, air one beats nair one. So, put something over your face if you don't have anything right now. And so making these makeshift masks and those kinds of things are helpful if you have nothing else. Certainly if you have an N5 mask, or you have that big, like a RoboCop respirator mask that I have, that would probably do better. But if you didn't, and if you could take 2 hair ties and conform a mask with a handkerchief, that's better than nothing. Is that not correct?
I mean, that's if a person chooses it. And, it's basically with that, wearing them, period, is different strokes for different folks.
Mm-hmm.
But the point that I was trying to make is that, and you see it in the article and you heard it from various different doctors and scientists that, that was saying that, masks, it's either here or there, you wear it or not, The most important thing to do is just basically stay away from individuals who are ill, who are sick with the flu or cold, sneezing or whatever. And it's mandatory. It's like a way of life. Washing your hands, keeping your dirty hands off your face. That should be a way of life. Nobody shouldn't be telling us we should have been doing that and been doing it since, being able to wash our hands and keep our personal hygiene up. So doing that, of course, is safe and healthy, and it's a part of life, But I don't think it what's going on as far as with this corona pandemic, I don't think, wearing the type of mask that people are wearing is beneficial to them. What's beneficial is, like I said, staying away from an individual who's sick, continue your personal hygiene, washing, eating healthy is the most important thing, is building your immune system. That is like the most essential thing for anybody in getting your health in order, to be able to wear off any kind of ailments or viruses or disease, because wherever we go, there's going to be germs, there's going to be viruses, and our bodies have to fight it off either way it goes. But the thing with the wearing a mask is it can do good for a certain point if it's worn properly, used properly, and it can do damage to you as well, because your body's supposed to have oxygen. Your body's supposed to have sunlight. That is mandatory. So there's some benefit, and mainly, like I said, it's mainly for doctors who are working with patients, people who are working on construction sites, and hazardous and disaster areas like at 9/11, and construction sites, we wear masks.
Right.
But we was also told in our OSHA class, the safety class, which we covered asbestos, is not only asbestos suppliers that I went to training for. I'm a safety. I hold a safety certificate and an OSHA certificate and a hazmat certificate. So I'm certified to work on any hazardous disaster site. And they told
so let me ask you a question. But I want to ask you a question. But I want to ask you a question. So, and I always thought about this, and there's an article which I'll refer to in a minute from Forbes. But if we're talking about carbon dioxide, right? That covering, you're not getting the proper amount of oxygen. I think about all the Muslim women who walk around with the burqas, the niqabs, the face coverings, right? So they literally walk around in 90-degree weather, 100-degree weather with those on. I've not heard in the Muslim community of a widespread case of carbon dioxide poisoning, right? But here's what it says in the Forbes article. It says, unless you are a plant, excess carbon dioxide is certainly bad for your health. It says also known as carbon dioxide, or what they call hypercarbia, also known as carbon dioxide toxicity, can result in an altered mental state, loss of consciousness, an irregular heartbeat, breathing difficulties, and can even be fatal. Now, this is what the conspiracy theorists are saying. This is why you shouldn't wear masks, because this is going to happen to you. It says, but few people are at risk of experiencing this in their everyday lives while wearing masks, face coverings, or not. It says why? Because the carbon dioxide molecules are simply too small to be controlled by the majority of mass materials and simply pass right through them. So they don't get trapped in there.
Bull. I mean, that whole statement is bull. There's not enough carbon dioxide that stays in that mask. And when you breathe out, it all goes out the side. So I mean, this theory is wrong.
Yeah.
They use those same masks for construction. You see guys they have it on for hours doing painting and sanding. They're not dying.
Well, look, like when I went through training, you have to go. First of all, before you even start wearing any kind of mask or facial coverage, you have to go to Concentra or to a doctor, and they have to test your breathing. That is automatic. If you can't breathe a certain level, wearing a mask or any kind of covering of your mouth, you can't even pass get through any kind of certification. So that's why they send you to the hospital to take a breathing test, breath test, and you have to go above a certain breathing level in a mask or whatever. And if you don't, they give you this machine, and you can't go through no kind of working under or even being certified OSHA or any kind of hazmat at a certain level.
All right. Okay, we got another caller. Let's take this other.
It affects your breathing. Mask, any type of mask affects your breathing. Period. Point blank.
Let's take this other caller. Thanks, Munira. Caller, go.
No, I just wanted to say thank you to Munira, because she basically said that if you have a healthy body, then wearing a mask, particularly a surgical mask, you should have no problem wearing it for an extended period of time. You have to have some other medical, to be passing out from a mask on, there has to be some other medical condition. You should not pass out. Agree with. Okay. There has to be something else wrong with you. Right? Whether you have a reduced lung capacity, breathing ability, whatever. But you are not supposed to, in a healthy human body, pass out because you have a surgical mask on. Surgeons go into surgery for hours at a time, okay, wearing the same mask. They don't get to take it off in the middle of the surgery, okay? And they don't pass out. They don't get dizzy. You pray that they don't, because you don't want them spicing your body open while they're doing it, right? Standing over you getting dizzy and lightheaded. So apparently that is just a clock. Right? Now, again, I'm not saying people aren't dying wearing masks. Right? People were saying, the mask that I wear is a cycling mask, right? And it's got popular from one of the, I think Marshawn Lynch was the athlete that used to wear it while he trained for football, right? And then people want to say that this surgical mask is killing people and that people are passing out when they're jogging. This guy, you ever seen how they train a football practice session? Like, and he wore a mask the entire time while on that. But he didn't pass out. He didn't die. Right? There has to be something else wrong with you. And we have to separate that. And that's why, the tag conspiracy theory, has really, come about and evolved. And people are like, don't call it a conspiracy theory. But when you look to something as simple as wearing a mask, and you think that if a person passes out while wearing one, that, that means that masks are no good, that's crazy. That's just not reality. Something else was wrong with that person. Let's find out what was wrong.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm going to sit back and listen.
Appreciate it, man. So, listen, Vincent, I thought I sent you the article. There was in Irvington, there was an election. And now there are some concerns. I can't find the. I'm looking for the actual article. There are some concerns now about I think it's the North Ward and the West Ward in Irvington for council that there is some hanky panky going on with the ballots that maybe they are fraudulent, and so they halted the counting of those ballots and will proceed, I guess, today. So you were talking yesterday about
ballot mail-in ballot fraud.
About mail-in ballot fraud, right? So, and what we were talking about was helping people, right? And I'm not sure. I'm trying to find this, but I'm not sure that they were necessarily trying to help the people. I think that if they see signatures that are the same, that probably what they did was simply sign a person's name, which you cannot do. The person has to sign their name. But it appears that that they may have signed a name, and that is fraudulent. That is illegal. Hold on, let's take this call. Call it, go.
I read the article you're talking about, Eric. Apparently a local reverend had put a call out to people saying, like, that we will come, or you bring your ballot to us and we will help you with it. And in the end, now they're saying that a couple of hundred ballots have similar or identical signatures.
They're talking about 700.
It might have been. I don't remember what the number was. But I read the article. They were for yesterday. And you know, like, they're basically saying that somebody either won, like, it was like the reverend who was supposed to be put it out there to, you know, help people, but in the end they're saying that, like, somebody just went filled them all out for the same person. Like, all the ones that are, like, everything is similar because it's all into big mistakes. So yeah, I mean, people have to do their own due diligence. They have to do it themselves. You can't let somebody else do it, just like you can't let someone else go into the voter booth with you. You gotta learn. You have to figure it out on your own, and that has to be the key and the essential part of educating people to using, you know, voter-in ballots, you know, remote balloting, whatever you call it, remote voting. It has to be.
So now, but it seems, and Vincent and I were trying to get through this. I found it. So it says allegations of ballot tampering stop Irvington count. It says race in North and West wards undecided after hundreds of ballots have questionable write-in votes. It says the counting of mail-in ballot in 2 Irvington ward council races has been suspended, and election officials are preparing to notify law enforcement to investigate possible voter fraud. Several hundred ballots in the North and West wards contain write-in candidates for the Board of Education, most of them with similar handwriting, sources told the Globe. The alleged victims of the suspect ballots are candidates aligned with popular Irvington Mayor Tony Voss. So what it sounds like, right? Is Tony Voss's people, they believe or they suspect may have had bundles of. Well, you know, I'll tell you exactly how it goes. So you get people who say that they're going to vote for somebody, but they don't have time to fill the thing out. And then the people in the campaign say, oh, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it for you. But you're going to vote for this person, right? Yep, got it. So then they take the ballot. They fill everything out themselves for the person because they know. So, for instance, I know Vincent's going to vote for me. So I say, Vincent, you don't have time to fill it out. Don't worry about it. I have somebody in my campaign fill it out for you. Right? And then my person in my campaign is filling that one out along with 100 other ones and turns them all in. And the signatures on 100 ballots look the same.
Yeah, but 700?
Hey, she's got
the same signatures?
Whoever did it got hand cramps now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know how dumb that is? Somebody's going to write 700 freaking signatures?
Yeah.
Come on.
But you know what, Vincent? Sometimes people try to get slick and they try to change up their signature, right? But you can't. But here's the thing that I always wonder, because I worked on a campaign in with former Mayor Hawkins out of Orange, where he had some write-ins, and you had a judge who threw out some of his ballots because they said that the signatures didn't match. And the question that we raised was, is the person looking at the signature, are you a professional handwriting expert?
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Because what basis, what weight should I put on you saying that those signatures don't match? And if you're not a handwriting expert, and so if I were whoever the attorney is, because we did get to talk to one of the candidates offline, and my understanding is they have an attorney. That is one of the questions that I'd be asking. Okay, so who determined that these signatures are like that? And then now I want to see their certification as a handwriting expert. And if they don't have that, then how do you credit any, give accreditation to anything that they're saying? So we'll see. But they're going to count them. They say, according to this article, they're going to count them today, and we should have clear winners in the North and West Ward in Irvington, and then move on. Dre Sandross said Democrats are sneaky. Democrats and Republicans are sneaky. I keep saying that they're two wings of the same dirty bird. Hey, Vincent, on to cooking. Did you see my Brussels sprouts I made last night? I posted them on Facebook. Oh, is Vincent gone again? He may be. So anyway, I posted these Brussels sprouts on Facebook, guys, and every day I may try to post a little something as I gear up to try to do this cooking show. The Brussels sprouts came out amazing. I roasted them, and I used grapeseed oil, fresh garlic.
Yeah, she just gave me. I was just talking with her, and then I clicked the button, and there you were. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Oh,
okay.
So, yeah, I'm talking about my Brussels sprouts.
Yes, I'm here.
Vincent.
Hello.
Vincent. Hello, Vincent.
Okay, can you see me? Good. Okay, should be.
Okay, I think Vincent's on the phone with somebody else. He'll call back. But back to my Brussels sprouts. If you haven't seen the picture of them, and I'm surprised that so many people hit like on them, but they are a very nutritious vegetable. Munira, if you love roasted Brussels sprouts, it was a real simple recipe, nothing crazy. It was grapeseed oil. My favorite gadget in the kitchen is my little food processor, where I take my garlic and I put it in there, and I process it until it's really fine. And then I put that in a bowl with the olive oil, put some fresh crushed pepper, some pink Himalayan sea salt in there. And then I've got this seasoning. It's pepper garlic seasoning. I put that in there and I tossed it with my hands in the bowl, and then I spread them all on a baking sheet. I like to put them. Well, I cut the ends off because those ends are real tough, and you don't need them anyway. Of the Brussels sprouts, then I cut them in half, and then I put them face down because I like how it browns. It just looks really nice. So I did that. Hello, Diane.
Look, I gotta step in and say something
about my Brussels
sprouts.
When
it comes to mail-in ballots and people signing people's ballots and filling out the ballots for them, it's very easy to detect when you have a couple of the ballots that you put together, because this is how stupid they are, because they're lazy, and they pile them together, and you start matching up the signatures. I've seen it before on petitions. And just so you know, it is up to the clerk to decide first that it's invalid before it even go to the courts. So if your clerk was, of course, hired by your council people, which is on board with your mayor, she could say they're all valid. And that's it. And by the time the election is done and the clerk certifies the election, now you have to go to the municipal county, and fight it with Board of Elections.
Well,
it
but
is
this
a tedious
article is saying that
process.
these are the mayor's people.
He said the mayor's people were the victims.
Right.
That's what you said. They were the victims. So which means that the mayor has control of the the township clerk.
No, see, that's why I read it. So explain this to me, because it sounded like, so I'm going to read it again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It says...
I mean, not the township clerk, the county clerk. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Right? It says several hundred ballots, blah, blah, blah. The alleged victims of the suspected ballots are candidates aligned with the mayor. So I'm assuming, like, if you were the candidate, right, you've been victimized by these ballots that somebody may have fraudulently signed.
Right. In your favor.
I understand that. But if you're saying that the clerk is aligned with the mayor.
The county clerk, the county. You're going to Essex County, you're going to Chris Durkin's office. So you have to put all of those people in those pieces in place.
No, but right.
And who works together.
Right.
They're all working together, but if they're saying that there was alleged fraud
with the mayor's
because of the signature,
people. They're saying alleged fraud with the mayor's people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
All right.
But that's their excuse also to throw out all those ballots. See, alleged. So we say that these are all false signatures, so we could throw out all these ballots, which means that all the other ballots that we don't throw out are still in favor of the mayor. But we're going to throw this in and say, people are throwing out false ballots to him because you don't know how the election count would have been. With or without those ballots. That's the problem with mail-in ballots. It's a good and a bad thing. But what happens with thieves and criminals is they're lazy. So what they do is they fill them out 500, 200, 300 back to back to back to back to back.
That's what I was saying.
Then they bundle them together and they drop them off, and they all still together. Even if they get out, even if you dump them in a box, you still going to have a handful of them together. So when the clerks at the county clerk's office pulls them out and starts opening them up, they don't pull out one at a time. They'll take a handful. And if you're sitting at your desk and they start opening them up, and then they start laying them on top of each other because they're not actually counting them. They're first opening them up, and then they're stacking them, and then they start flipping through to record the numbers. Then they start to see the signatures are starting to look alike. That's how it's done.
Somebody's going to get in trouble.
And you got to think, the Board of Elections commissioner for Essex County is actually a Republican black woman. And she was put in by, what's his name? Chris Christie, before he left. Because the last one was a black woman, but she was also a Republican, and she was put in by Chris Christie. But the elections person before her was a white man that had some type of issues, and they ended up arresting him and losing his job. But he had been there for like 15, 20 years. So there's a lot going on in elections.
Well, we're going to find out by the end of today what's going on in Irvington. We will
I'll tell you one thing, Tony Boss people still going to be in. That ain't going to change.
Uh-oh.
So they can find whatever discrepancies they want. That's not going to change.
Hey, Diane, I was talking about my Brussels sprouts when you called.
Oh, God.
Did you see my Brussels sprouts?
No, I didn't.
You didn't? Diane, you got to go look at them. Do you like Brussels sprouts?
I love Brussels sprouts.
I roasted them, Diane.
Mm-hmm.
And I used some grapeseed oil and some Himalayan sea salt and some fresh crushed pepper and some garlic. Tossed them, roasted them for a half an hour at 450 degrees. Then I took them out, Diane, and I drizzled some truffle olive oil on them. Oh, spectacular. I had to take a picture and put it on my Facebook page.
Enjoy.
I did enjoy them. Listen,
12:01.
Huh? It is 12:01.
Have a great
That's what I was going to
weekend.
say. Enjoy your weekend, people. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe. Put your mask on. And if you don't have it on, don't come anywhere near me. Thanks for tuning in. Diane, enjoy your weekend. Thanks for calling. I'm glad you called in. Got to hear your voice.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Thank you.
I don't know where Vincent went. He'll call me later, I'm sure.
I've been outside in the yard listening to you the whole time, trying to put together my my compost.
You have a compost here?
Thing. Yeah, and the instructions tell you it takes 2 to 4 hours. Literally, it took me 30 minutes just to get the first part. Now I'm on part 2. So I'm 2 hours in.
Do you have the one that you turn?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll send you a picture when I'm done.
Yeah, those are the best because you could do it in like a tin can. But,
Yeah.
But trying to turn it over, right? The stuff that's down at the bottom, get it up top.
To mix it up good, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
But Diane,
so
listen,
I'm excited.
But once you get stuff is living in there too. So we talked about living.
Oh God,
you're gonna have
yes.
all kinds of stuff living in there. And you know what's really great about it? When you open it up, you'll see steam coming out.
Well, it has the holes, so you have the vents and stuff around
I'm
it.
excited for you.
And it has it's like cut in half, so when you cook in one side, you can use the other side, and to separate it. It's like a 50-gallon thing or something. It's huge. I was hoping that it would have came together, but it didn't.
Oh wow!
And it's got a million pieces.
Oh God!
A million pieces.
Good luck putting it together.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you later. Take care, guys.
Take care.